Hello, beautiful friends. So much love to you. I just want to share some love and revelations that I've been having. And I feel like it'll be helpful for a lot of people. So, where to even begin? So crazy. I recently wrote an article on my website and my newsletter that sort of articulates some of the things that I want to talk about in this video. So if you enjoy reading, then definitely check that out. But just to kind of flow off the dome, I've been learning so much. First off, I want to say, if you have been just going through it, whether it's something happening in your reality or just your own inner world, thoughts, feelings, addictions, all these kinds of things, feeling them come up, just feeling like this intensity, that we talk about all the time here. I just want to remind you that you are not crazy and you are certainly not alone, because I know I've been going through it. I've been feeling it a lot in myself and in the collective. And, I feel like all the people I know in my life, it's just like such a rattling, really such a rattling. And I think a good way to kind of describe what I'm feeling is like just this continuation of coming out of the programming and realizing that we are not who we think we are. These egos, all of these things that I guess we've been identifying with. It really blows my mind, like what we're experiencing here, through these experiences that maybe you feel like they're breaking you down or just breaking you apart, breaking you open. These are the kinds of experiences, I don't know why, but I have to relate them to even like my experiences in the past with like plant medicine, which is honestly a good analogy for what seems to be kind of occurring naturally now, just with the energy. Just these deep experiences again of just feeling like you're being stretched or pushed to your beyond what you knew possible. Containing things that you maybe never thought you could contain, just seeing things from new perspectives, seeing all these old ways of being that we've just kind of been living in. And now it's just like spotlight after spotlight after spotlight on all of these sort of shadows or thoughts or feelings or just things happening in your life, which, when things are happening in your external reality, just know that you can also look at what's going on in your internal reality and, how is that mirroring the situations that are going on around you, similar to like the symbolism of a dream, because life is like a dream. I guess all that to say is I just feel like for all of us, like our soul is just coming more online, more activated. And it's so beautiful, it's so freeing, it's so relieving. But the process of doing this, just a reminder, I remind people all the time, because I have to remind myself all the time, that this process can be quite turbulent. Because there's just so many things that have to be exposed, in the same way that we're seeing so many things be exposed in the world. Within our own self, there's so many things that just have to be exposed. And so much of it we can't control. We're not in control of it. Like, we're eternal souls, way beyond any of this, incarnated into this human lineage, this ancestral lineage, this body, this DNA. What a miracle. But, we are formless beyond the stars, being contained in a very dense body that is full of programs, not only from our own actual life, but from our parents and their parents' parents and beyond, which, they've been through so much, as well as what's going on in the collective, as well as all the mind control that I'm telling you is so freaking deep. You know, it's so freaking deep. Like this is why I think this is so intense, is because for many of us on this journey, just a side note, it's like we're getting into these levels of mind control that are so much deeper than I think we could have even imagined a few years ago. You know, so just, I guess I say that just to remind you, I just want you to give yourself so much credit. I want everyone to give themselves so much credit, because I've been learning to give myself so much credit and compassion, because there's really no other option unless you just want to keep beating yourself up for these things that are not even in your control. You can't really even control like the amount of programming that has just been in your body that's coming up now, so that it can be seen, so that it can be transmuted, so that it can be healed and integrated as a higher, again, new way of being. All of this is, as far as I can see, it's occurring so naturally. It has like a natural divine sort of process, especially like I said in my last video, especially when you do set the intention very strongly to align with God, to align with your higher self, to align with who you really are. You know, set that intention strong every single day, and it will be. But as I've said before, as I continue to experience, it manifests in ways that you're not probably going to expect, and that aren't probably going to make sense to your ego. And your ego is going to want to grab on and control everything. And I guess just, you know, one of the things I want to share, as what I was kind of getting into, is that there's just so many things that we can't control. Like this programming that's been deep within us, that on some level we agreed to jump into. It's beyond our control. Like, it has to come up, though, is what I'm trying to articulate, is that it just has to come up so that it can be, again, seen and healed and transmuted. And this is going to happen in ways that you can't really expect or predict or control. So I guess my invitation to you is my invitation to myself, is like, can we just be okay with that? Can we just be okay with that instead of trying to control it or judge it? Why judge it? It's just so exhausting to me at this point to try to judge my experience and what I'm going through. Because again, it is what it is, you know? It's like, why resist what is? And I understand why, because it's an egoic, knee-jerk reaction that, you know, again, we've been programmed with to, again, try to control and judge what we're in and what we're experiencing. But I guess, again, I just want to really sort of relay what I've been learning so much, getting into these deeper and deeper levels of what I would call ascension, you know, things that we wouldn't expect, we couldn't have expected, because it's just so beyond, you know, this ascension journey is asking us things that are, as we continue to evolve, you know, it's like we're able to understand and hold a lot more than we previously could. So there's so much, basically what I'm saying is there's so much in our programming as these human beings, which really isn't us. Understand that. It's like we're playing this role, but it's really not you. You know what I mean? But all this programming that has to come up, again, whether it's your personal stuff, at this point, many of us are tapping into things that are not even of our own necessarily self. It's like our parents, our ancestral stuff, the collective, parallel timelines. I'm just like, I can't believe like the amount of like parallel timelines that are coming in to be seen and healed. And I don't even fully understand that. I just know I'm experiencing it, and a lot of you probably are as well. Basically what I'm saying is that's the work that we're doing, that at least I find myself doing, is that's the actual process of evolution. It's not that there's something wrong with you. It's not that you're doing something wrong. It's just what we came here to do, to transmute this shadow in the collective. All of this programming and trauma and all this stuff just comes up to be resolved through our own body, through our own vessel, through our mind, through our heart, through our soul. None of it is really actually personal. It's just this stuff has to, again, be seen. This is again, I'm just flowing from my heart. This is why we're here. This is literally why we're here. We're not here just to have earthly success or to just like be some advanced soul, because we already are that. Do you understand? We're already an advanced soul, way beyond the fifth dimension, incarnated in this body to shift the human consciousness. How? By going through these things that are beyond our ego's control, by going through these situations or these emotions and these transformations that are beyond our control. You know, I keep wanting to emphasize that because I feel like people just beat themselves up so badly. And honestly, I think if you're doing that, it's okay. We all do that. But don't miss the point. Don't miss the point that that is the work. That is the success. That is the service that you're giving to humanity, that you're naturally doing by working through and creating these new ways of being, these new pathways for humanity, by being one of the first ones to do this work. That's why it's one of the reasons it's so hard, because we're the pioneers. We're doing this first, so that, you know, those brothers and sisters that maybe aren't as aware yet can start to see these new ways of being through what we're doing, both from seeing us as examples, and also just we're like creating these new like neural networks, you know, in our DNA. It's just very contagious, and I just see it all the time. The way that, you know, we're able to give these light codes without even having to say a word to people. So that's a huge thing I just want to say, because I've just been going through a lot of that in myself and what I see in other people. And, you know, I'm just experiencing what I want to say, like this new level of love. It's like coming back into wholeness, coming back into this unconditional love for yourself, because when you start having these experiences that, you know, the past version of you would judge yourself harshly for doing this or thinking this or feeling this way, judging yourself as bad or wrong or off track or not good enough, or comparing yourself to other people in their journey, you know, coming into this kind of new state of being where instead of resisting all of this stuff that already is, actually having the courage to allow it to be, first of all. And these are things a lot of us already know, but it's like these teachings have to come back, you know, time and time again with these new levels of intensity and shadow that we're all going through. Whatever you're going through, ask yourself, if you've been going through a shitstorm, are you able to allow it? Are you able to allow it to be okay? You know, again, I'm just telling you some of the things that I've been realizing, you know, something that maybe your ego, that part of you that's resisting what is, that's resisting the present moment. Are you able to allow it to be okay? You know, even if you think it's totally wrong, if it's totally unacceptable, if it's totally confusing, if it's totally scary, coming back to like the 0 point field of infinite possibilities, the first step is allowing it to be okay, because it's happening. It has to be okay. Do you understand? It has to be okay if it's happening. You know, it's just one of those things of like coming back to the present moment, coming back to your peace. So much of our suffering is resisting what is, because we're judging it as not okay, as wrong, especially with pain. We don't want to feel pain, whether it's physical pain, emotional pain, mental pain. A lot of times when pain arises, it's like we just want to like resist, like hold back. And we all know at this point, I'm sure, you know, what you resist persists. So just a reminder, you know, to allow these things to be okay. You know, that's the first step, I would say. I'm kind of giving you guys just sort of a formula that I came up with a really intense situation that I was going through, because I was really resisting what was happening, because I was judging it as not okay. But again, it's happening, and I couldn't really control it. You know, again, there's so many. Really, the only thing we have control over is how we respond to things that are happening, and even that. We only have so much control even over that, because that's what I'm saying, is we have all this like human programming that we're just having to live through. So like, just have so much mercy and compassion with yourself, please. There's so many things that we really can't control. But we just have to kind of tune in with our higher self at each moment the best we can, tune in with God and trust that, because, and receive that, because that's what's going to allow us to be guided, through these types of challenging moments that you may be going through or may have to go through or whatever. I'm just trying to like ease the resistance for myself and for others, because you just kind of have to allow it. If it's arising, that's kind of the first step, is allowing it to be okay, because it's okay. You don't need to be so harsh and judgmental and all of these things we've been programmed to do to ourselves to keep us stuck. That's really what keeps us stuck. So that's like the first thing, is allowing it to be okay. And then I would say, just being present, coming back to like the observer, observing your thoughts, observing your feelings, observing your situation from your higher self. Not from such a place of judgment, but just from a place of seeing. And this is when, something, I'm as usual, I'm weaving in all of these things that maybe seem unrelated, but they are related. Because another tip I want to give, another practical thing I want to give is, I've shared this before about parts work. So important, again, to come back to these solid fundamental teachings of parts work, which basically is just the practice of recognizing there's different parts of yourself. And when certain parts come up, so like, if you're going through something and you feel anxiety, you feel guilt, you feel shame, you feel fear, you feel these things as a human being does, or maybe it's thoughts, it's all connected. You're having some kind of uncomfortableness. Obviously, we know when this comes up because we feel it. But normally, again, that knee-jerk reaction often wants to deny it right away, hide it, push it back down, ignore it. All of these things that we try to escape, that we really can't escape. That's what I'm saying. It's okay. It's okay. Like, can we just normalize the shadow that's coming up? Because I'm telling you guys, this is just what I see, but it's going to be coming up for all of us. It's not something to ignore or fear, though. That's what I'm trying to say, like, to empower you. Like, why fear it? It's like, that's the power it has over you, is the fact that you fear the fear, that you fear it, that you fear the guilt, or you fear the shame, or you fear the whatever. Anyways, when you feel that come up, again, I invite you to see it. Instead of retreating, confront it as soon as you can. When those parts of you that don't feel good enough, that are scared, that inner child, or those wounded parts, these fragmented parts of ourselves that we have rejected for so long, if they're coming up, I promise you there is a divine order to this. They're only coming up when you actually do, believe it or not, have the capacity to heal and integrate them. And it's not by ignoring or denying them. It's by seeing them full on, being brave. And listen, it's honestly, these parts of ourselves are never actually as scary as we think they are when we ignore them. Because when you ignore them, like guilt and shame, it's a perfect example. Some of the lowest frequencies we can feel is guilt and shame. And I would say pretty much all humans have this in their body, often for merely existing, because that's just the kind of trauma that we're born into here. No shame about the shame. It's okay. We all have it if we're being honest. Like, I just think it's so amazing to be so real about what we're going through. But yeah, that's a perfect example. Like guilt and shame, when those come up, the more you try to push them away, the more loud and furious they're actually going to get. And they're going to keep coming up. They're going to keep manifesting in your life. Pushing them away is not really the answer. Again, this is just my experience. I'm just speaking off the cuff. The way to deal with anything, guilt and shame being a perfect example, is to actually, you feel those feelings, see them, acknowledge them, embrace them, And if you know what parts work is, if not, definitely look into it. Speak to them with an open dialogue. You know, like, what are you showing me? Why are you arising? What is this? Like, you know, speaking to those parts of yourself that feel that, you know, as if they were a child. Because it is, these things are often very childlike. They're not trying to hurt you. They're not trying to necessarily make you feel bad. These are actually parts of your human self that are lost. And the only way for them to get resolved is for you to shine your loving light and awareness on them, to love them, to see them, to ask them questions. What is wrong? What is, like, how are you feeling? Why? And they will answer you. You just got to let it flow. I promise you. They'll tell you, what are you feeling bad about? What are you worried about? What are you, you know, these kinds of things. Having that dialogue, and ultimately learning what you need to learn, and then loving and genuinely forgiving and coaxing those aspects of yourself back into you. You don't, you know, it's okay. This isn't all there is. You don't have to feel, you don't have to live in this separation. You know, it's like, that's how you truly resolve these inner afflictions you have, these anxieties, these guilts, these shames, these things that are coming up. And remember, none of this is really even you. You can't even really control this. It just is what it is. That's the vibe. It is what it is. You're a human being. You have these dense aspects of yourself that as you see and heal them, I promise you, you are seeing and healing the collective. And that's what we're doing. We are like vessels of transformation for everything. It's not even yours. Like, you don't have to take it so personally. But this is the work we're doing. This is the highest work that we're doing that is naturally occurring for all of us, which is why, you know, we continue to rise in our light, and we continue to face these shadows deeper and deeper and deeper with more courage, with more bravery, with more mastery. You know, it's just so incredible. So I really, really am grateful to share that. Allow what it is. Allow it to be okay. First of all, stop making yourself wrong. Stop punishing yourself. Stop resisting what is. Come back to the present moment. Come back to the zero field. It's okay, I promise. Because it has to be. If it's arising, I'm just saying. I'm just trying to be real. Like, yeah, so allowing it to be okay, whatever you're in, again and again and again. Acknowledging the parts of yourself that feel like it's not okay. And loving them. Stop pushing them away, but honor them, see them. And as a side note, you know, I'm talking about, you know, your shadow, the organic parts, the organic part of you. You know, if you're dealing with some kind of external negative entities or implants or afflictions, that's another story, which again, I talk about in that article I link below. If that's kind of a different situation, and you'll know if you got something like that going on, and you know, that's part of the things I offer if you need help getting those things removed. Just want to add that in there. You know, things that are not you, that are it's different. But for the sake of what most of us are going through right now, and what I'm talking about, these organic parts of your shadow that are not evil, they're just in pain. They've been fragmented from you, and then they come up as you're ready to reintegrate them. How do you integrate them? Again, by loving them, by seeing them, by acknowledging them, by confronting them, instead of fearing them and pushing them away. Like, oh my God, like, I can't feel that. You can feel it. You're safe to feel it all. You know, that's why, you know, I don't know. That's something I'm very grateful for in my life is I'm ready to feel it. I'm ready to feel it all, even if it's so uncomfortable, you know, even when I do have resistance to feeling it. You know, again, as a knee-jerk reaction, when it comes up, and I finally have awareness of like, oh my God, I'm feeling this way. Let's feel it. And I've talked about this many times before, but again, a good reminder, feeling is healing. When you have these raw emotions, the best thing you can do for yourself is to just feel them full on with no resistance, so that they can move through your body easily. It's only when we grab on and we identify and we freak out and we try to take control over these emotions, try to push them away or intellectualize them and all this stuff we do, that's when these feelings can linger for a really long time. When you just feel them full on without any shame or judgment, it's like they move through so easily, and they always teach you something, and they make you stronger and wiser. So I think that was the main things, allowing it to be okay, remembering to integrate these parts of you that are hurting instead of shaming them, loving them. It's okay. We all have it. Everybody's going through it. That's why the people I admire the most right now, on like spiritual teacher wise or guide wise, are the people who are being so real about this. Because more and more, I just think like this whole, it's just sort of another programmed way to act. Like everything is just so easy and perfect right now. You know, obviously we have access to these heavenly states of bliss, and that's really important, and it is important to like raise your vibration. But I just want people to feel like, I don't want people to feel like something is wrong with them because of what they're going through. Because this harsh lack of compassion and this harsh judgment that we often cast upon ourselves, you know, in my experience, can actually just keep you sort of fighting in this inner affliction that, you know, that happens time and time again, whereas we can actually resolve it through what I'm talking about. And then I guess the last thing I'll say on that note is of allowing and loving these parts of yourself, and realizing you're not really in control of a lot of it, and it's not even you. You don't even have to identify with it. You are already enlightened consciousness, but you're in a human body that has these afflictions. It's not even personal. You know, you're just, it's like, that's how I feel. Like, I feel like my soul is just here for the ride. My soul has no judgment over what's arising in me. You know, it's my ego self that's like, oh gosh, shouldn't feel that. That shouldn't have happened. That person shouldn't have done that. Or, you know, all these sort of judgments that as we continue to like ascend, not just higher, but deeper, coming back home, as we ascend, it just becomes too great of a burden to bear, to have these judgments towards ourselves and others, to shame and to hate and to fear, and to just have these sort of things that we used to have without even realizing it. It truly becomes too much of a burden to bear. Like, love is the only way. Love is the only way. As cliche as that may sound, it's literally the only way, because when you start experiencing the things I'm talking about, everything else is just too dense. It's just too heavy. It's just too much to hold onto, the shame and the fear and the guilt and, again, the judgments. So that's when we get into what I'm saying about unconditional love, is you can love these parts of yourself that you think are unlovable. And that's the core of what we're doing, is loving this, you know, loving these parts of ourselves when they come up, because that's what we're experiencing, you know. If we're experiencing already joy and peace and gratitude in these beautiful states, then that's pretty natural, you know. But I'm talking about for when we do slip into the natural challenges of life. We can continue to just stay in the flow state instead of like getting all freaked out about it. It's okay. It's okay. You know, it's happening for a reason. It's happening to teach you something that you need for what you're doing. It's so divine. It really is, you know. So again, trust it. And as you begin to sort of, it's like a softening, because it's like a loving, like I was saying, it's loving these parts of you that you thought were unlovable. And this is the real work, because as you're able to do this, you naturally can love others way more, because you realize there's really no one scarier than your own self. That's, you know, kind of crazy, but there's really no one who can necessarily even like torture you like your own self. You know, as crazy as that may sound, you know, a lot of people live like that. They're torturing themselves. You know, you don't have to. You can start to love yourself again and again and again until it's just natural. And it's so powerful. Honestly, I think it's the greatest success that we can strive for at this time, is having this unconditional love for yourself, that regardless of what's happening, regardless of what you're feeling or what you're thinking or what somebody is telling you or what's going on in your life, you can still have the ability to love yourself. Even when you feel unlovable, you can still love yourself. That sounds like real success to me. You know what I mean? And this is what I was going to say. The last thing I was going to say is, because once you do this, and I'm telling you, it's so powerful. Like, you can resolve deep pains, sometimes within minutes, through just having a dialogue with your pain and being open to it. And then you start noticing you're calming down. You're kind of more regulating, and you can start being more receptive to whatever it is maybe you were looking for. If you were looking for an answer, or for clarity, or for an opportunity, or for whatever guidance maybe you were seeking, once you kind of resolve this sort of affliction with this love that I'm talking about, you'll be more in the receptive state, and then that's when all these things flow in. If you ever notice, this is a side note, but that energy of desperation, which is actually often the energy of despair, again, that's something you can recognize and love in yourself. But the energy of desperation, I need an answer, I need this, I need that, I need this, I need that. There's just something about that in the universe. It's almost brutal, but it's like something about that desperation energy that like repels a lot of the time. But when you can regulate that and love that and coax that into acceptance and allowance and love and being okay with not having this thing you want, being okay with not having this answer at this exact moment. I've noticed so many times, once you reach that state of acceptance, the answer or the opportunity or the thing just comes right in. That's just kind of a side note, but I did want to share that. Because I don't know. So that's kind of the key of, I guess, just the energy I've been feeling and learning. And I hope that this is and helpful and inspiring, and just so much love to you. And also a reminder that like everything is temporary. That's another thing that often happens when we're going through a challenge or something, is it feels like it's forever. And it's not. Everything is temporary, very temporary. Everything is actually always moving. Even if you feel stuck, everything is always moving. Whatever you're in will shift, and I think things are continuing to shift faster and faster. And I guess just a reminder to be, if you can, humble to who you really are. Remind that human aspect of yourself, to be humble to who you really are. To be humble to the God source within you that does have a plan for you, that is guiding you, that there is a reason for what you're going through right now, even if you don't understand it yet. I did not understand the thing that I was just going through, and I still don't fully understand it. But I can tell you that once I began to sort of do what I was just sharing with you, I started having these sort of just like embodied revelations I can't even explain. These embodied sort of knowings that there's no other way I could have had them if not for this experience that has pushed me, pushed me beyond my limits is what it feels like. But just a reminder that these breakdowns truly are breakthroughs. And for many of us right now, that's what we're experiencing. It is like literally like ayahuasca level sort of in real time, mind-breaking sort of experiences perhaps, because it's like, this is just again what I'm feeling and seeing, is it's breaking down this identity that we thought that we were, that we're not. It's really intense, but it's such a relief at the same time when you accept it and you surrender to it and you realize that you're not really in control of it. A lot of it, you're not in control of it. And continuing to come into your heart, into what your higher self, what God is really asking of you, which we always know deep down. And even in those moments of extreme muckiness or confusion, like I was saying, if you can do something to, whether it was what I was sharing or some, you have your own technique to kind of regulate and calm down and receive, get back into the receptive mode where you can receive what God, what your higher self is showing you or telling you and just letting go of so many of these illusions, because it's not your identity. It's not defining you. Again, your thoughts, your experiences, or whatever is arising in your life, like, just see it for what it is. It doesn't define who you are. Remember who you are. Remember who you really are. And see what you can learn from that. Because I promise it's these indispensable lessons, especially the more challenging and the more painful, the more rewarding. Remember that. If you can just tattoo that on your brain so that when you go through challenges, you can remember that in the back of your mind, that's just something that I think will be helpful, as we continue to go through these transformations. This is the work. Last thing, I promise, because I don't want this to be too long. But I just really want a strong reminder that this is the evolution, including the challenges. Obviously the joy and the bliss and the creativity, I feel like that goes without saying. But I'm talking about the shadow side of things because that's often where people freak out, myself included. Or feel like it's just this programming, like, oh, something is wrong, I must be wrong. And that's, again, something the ego will grab onto so tightly. And I'm just saying, can you just start to learn how to flow with that and have grace with that and have grace with yourself with that? Because that is part of that's like the I don't know what the word is, like the grunt of the work. Is that the word? That's like the core of the work, is the shadow. Is working with the shadow and healing and clearing the shadow. And for ourselves, and for many of us, it's so beyond ourselves. Many of what we're going through, it's so beyond ourselves. We don't even, I don't think even we can conceive how grand the things that we're tuning into are. And that everything that we're working on, that we're working through, that we're navigating is all serving. As we continue to find our light and be the light and follow this living God within us, this love, this light, this truth. So powerful. I think that's everything that I want to say for now. I love you all so much. Thanks again for listening. Just a reminder, I have a blog that I write these things on if you like to read or subscribe to my newsletter. I'm going to start sending it. And I also offer services. I offer raw Reiki, removing entities and implants, and just overall really beautiful experience to clear out anything, if you have anything blocking your chakras or your energy field, in a very sovereign way. And other things of that nature. Treat yourself if you want to, as well as teaching Reiki, just traditional Usui Reiki. Really beautiful skill to have for yourself and for your loved ones. Passing on a lot of the things that I've learned from my experience, to just start working with the energy, because everything is energy. Everything is energetic, and that's something we're only going to see more of. Even with all these physical symptoms, it's always something energetic behind it that's creating it. So why not learn how to work with it? It's really empowering. And I think that's everything. Okay, I love you all so much. Please know that you are so loved. You are love. You are lovable. You're surrounded by love all the time. You just got to tune in. And God bless you. God bless you for being here. I salute you. All right. Bye, everyone, for now.